The government is doing everything possible to create opportunities and remove barriers for young people in South Africa. However, we need young people with a vision who want to contribute to the improvement of the country. That was President Cyril Ramaphosa's message at Youth Day celebrations held in eNCA earlier today. However, for many of the young people, these are old promises. Now, the celebrations come against the backdrop of record high unemployment, particularly for young people. eNCA's Govan Whittles was at celebrations in the Eastern Cape, so let's bring him into this conversation now. Govan, good evening to you. It seems obvious to many of the youth, but what did the president outline as the country's biggest challenges?
Well, top of that list is youth unemployment, of course, above 60% nationally, and here in the Eastern Cape, particularly in eNCA, it's even worse. And today we saw evidence of that with hundreds of young people moving through the exhibit stalls, leaving their details, hoping to get a call back to find a job, others trying to engage with the different leadership in government that was in the event, as well as the ANC. But there are also a number of other issues. Some of them touched on by the president is the gender-based violence and femicide pandemic, which the president says needs to be urgently addressed, and took some time in explaining why that needs to be urgently addressed. And then, of course, he spoke about the recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, and for something that's close to the people's hearts here in eNCA and in the Eastern Cape, recovery from the floods that hit KZN and caused significant damage in the Port St. John's area. Let's listen to what the president had to say now on what the big challenges are that the youth of South Africa face.
Now more than ever, we need young people to rally together to confront and overcome the massive challenges that our country is facing today. The apartheid legacy of poverty, unemployment, and inequality lies at the center of a number of these challenges. And this has recently been compounded by the effects of COVID-19 and the July unrest that we experienced last year, as well as the devastating floods that we just experienced a few weeks ago in KZN, Northwest, and here in the Eastern Cape. The fact that millions of young people are not in employment, that many of them are not in education and in training, is the greatest challenge facing our country today. As we rebuild from the pandemic, we therefore remain focused on growing our economy and creating jobs.
So, Govan, how is government responding to these concerns?
Well, in a number of ways. Chief among them is the National Youth Service, and derivative of that is the Youth Employment Scheme, which has already created thousands of jobs. But more importantly, it does look like the social compact which the president has been trying to build with private South Africans, essentially encouraging people to contribute to the economy by becoming entrepreneurs, by developing their ideas, by opening factories, has yielded some fruits. Today there were at least 8 people, young people, who presented not only the ideas they have, but how the initial stages of growing their businesses have been going and how the government have been supporting them. The chief among the government support to these young people has been the National Youth Development Agency, the NYDA, and a number of the people which it helped were able to present evidence of the work that they've done. This, of course, encouraged the president and says he's convinced that the National Youth Service should be joined by as many people as possible. He's encouraging all young South Africans to join the National Youth Service on sayouth.mobi. But let's take a look now at what the president had to say about their response and some of the specifics in terms of how they're responding to youth unemployment.
We are harnessing capacity of the state to respond to the immediate needs of young people. It is for this reason that we announced the Presidential Youth Employment Intervention, which is a comprehensive response to the youth unemployment challenge. We have also launched the Presidential Employment Stimulus, which supports public and social employment and which has to date created close on to 880,000 jobs since it was established. A flagship initiative of the employment stimulus is the School Assistance Program, which has placed close on to 300,000 young people in schools across the country doing extremely valuable work. And this work that they are doing has been recognized and appreciated not only by the teachers, but also by parents, by school governing bodies, and also by local governments in the spaces where these schools are located.
Well, of course, the eNCA's Govind Whittles, I appreciate you giving us this update this evening out in Mthatha, of course, just after the President had addressed a crowd there for Youth Day celebrations today. But the last